Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And today is the final week of 2021. And what a year it's been. We're going to have a bit of a theme throughout the week, revisiting the year in various capacities. And we're going to start off with a topic that I find very interesting, which is this year in billionaires. It's been a very, very interesting year from that perspective. I think Time Magazine's Person of the Year is Elon Musk. So obviously that's big. We other stuff to get into, and we want to know what you think. So please leave us a comment, send us your super chats, and if you see me scrummaging and scrubbing around, it's because I spilled my coffee right before we began here. Anyway, please welcome my co-host today. We've got you know him from such hit shows as TV Talk with Mark Pellegrino. It's Mark Pellegrino.
What's up, Rucka?
Hey, and we've got a guy who is always prepared, and I'm sure today will be no exception. I'm just kidding. I'm not sure if he's prepared for this. It's Nikos.
Hi, I'm prepared, but only on one aspect of the topic. So I collected the anti-businessman myth of the year, which are also persistent anti-businessman myths. So that's where my focus will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Literally what you just said sounds more prepared than 99% of people in life. Okay, so let's start with Elon Musk. Here's a guy, he loves to tweet. He loves to, he's got what they call FU money. That means like, I don't care if you fire me, like I'm the boss and I got enough money in the bank that I could afford to burn a few bridges. So the guy, he loves to tweet. He loves to talk back. I mean, he has at times talked back at politicians like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Of course, his Tesla plant in 2020, I think he reopened despite lockdown commands, and he announced he's moving his business to Austin, Texas, which is great for real estate. If you're in Austin, Texas, present company included. So yeah, I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on Elon? Have you been paying attention to him very much?
It's difficult not to pay attention. So it's a sign of fresh air that someone actually hasn't accepted the role of, I'm going to be the punching bag and I'm going to apologize and I'm going to pay ransom for me to be able to create and do what I want. And by the way, also in the meanwhile, provide thousands and thousands of jobs. So I think it makes sense that he was the person of the year. It probably wasn't my person of the year. I haven't figured out who that was. But
me?
Well, you're always the person of the year in my heart. But although I've known you only for 2 years, and by the way, I might be in Austin in February, so we might have a daily objective in real life.
I'm very busy, Nikos, but I hope your travel goes well. I'm kidding. I'm looking forward to that. But yes. So, back to Elon. What do you think? Any thoughts?
And also one more thing. Last week, he tweeted also this thing about how much tax he's going to pay, which is good in terms of it was a sign of don't BS me that I'm a tax dodger and all that stuff. Now I would want him to take also the next step and say, and by the way, these are money appropriated from me by force. I don't owe you this stuff, but at least let's have the record straight. This is because most people think that billionaires actually don't pay anything. And one last thing before we go to Mark. This summer, I had the moment of epiphany. This summer, I had the moment where I said, okay, university is actually the place where I've had my time in. So it was this course. It was a summer course where we'd go to school and as an outreach thing. And as part of a presentation on criminology, someone said, that isn't it that billionaires don't actually pay tax and shouldn't this be considered a crime? And then someone else said, so wouldn't this mean that if you steal from a billionaire, because also they have a lot of money, then also this would be a victimless crime. So if billionaires commit victimless crimes, which is not paying their taxes, so in most of these people's minds, and these are professionals, these are teachers, not the kids, billionaires pay zero taxes. And since they make a crime, then stealing from them because they have a lot of money should not be a crime. So I know that most people have heard the essay, The Sanction of the Victim and the Persecuted Minority, but businessmen are indeed the one category to which you can throw anything, to which you can even say, look, if you commit a crime against them, I mean, is it really a crime?
Yeah, and it's altruism, isn't it? The premise at play, because this person is so able, then his rights basically end where our convenience or our needs begin. So he's basically here to take care of us, even though he basically he's like an Atlas, maybe not Elon per se, but like the wealthy industrialist, the successful industrialist. They really are like the Atlases of the world. They provide us not only with a higher standard of living, but many of us jobs and various other perks of living on Earth. And the more they give, the more we feel we quote unquote, the majority or the mainstream view is that we are entitled. But yeah, like you said, you just wish Elon would go a step further and just say, by the way, my GD money belongs to me. Mark, you recently did a episode of TV Talk, the hit show here on the network, about the show Billions. Obviously comes to mind a bit on a show like this. And that guy too, the main character, it's like there's so much good about him, like such an ego and such a personal drive. But like you just wish at times he would like put aside all utilitarian arguments and just go full egoist, full rational egoist, and just be like, I was not born to be anybody's slave, deal with me or don't deal with me. You know what I'm saying? He
does go there, but he mixes it with a little too much of that animal stuff that I think get conditioned into people. Yeah, Elon Musk, like Axelrod, is a breath of fresh air. He's a billionaire who's almost there, just like you guys said. He's almost there. He's there enough to give us hope that we're not lost, because he can get in the face of Elizabeth Warren and say, hey, I'm paying $11 billion in taxes. Don't ever say I don't pay my fair share again. And that will have some actual impact, maybe not on a sociopath like Elizabeth Warren, but on the rest of us who see somebody standing up to the establishment, the status quo, the woke wave that's sweeping over the country and stands in defiance against it. That gives us, I think, the fuel to do the same in our own way.
Do you agree, people, that if he was in Atlas, he would be two or three visits from a Francisco away from going on strike? He's there. He's there.
Elon?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, there's a lot I don't know about Elon Musk, and it's hard for me to kind of place the people here in this timeline with the sort of characters that Ayn Rand wrote into that novel. But yeah, I mean, I think definitely he made it to the short list if I had to guess. But yeah, it's going to be interesting when the strike is on TV to see how how Mark and the producers sort of adapt Atlas with maybe more of a kind of 2020s approach to TV script writing, and see kind of what the characters end up looking like. Are they going to be sort of these impeccable characters like Francisco, or is Francisco like a cross between Francisco and Elon Musk? I'm looking forward to seeing that. I might even sign up to the streaming service it's on. Now that is where we all become billionaires. Now,
wait,
okay.
Have I missed something? Is this official? Is it happening?
Well, we're in discussions with people, and we've all signed NDA, so we can't discuss it in detail.
Okay.
But
yes, when they can't talk about it, that's a good sign.
We're supposed to be for reason, so we shouldn't do this. But I'm doing the hope sign that it's
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the question is not who's gonna stop us. The question is who's gonna stop us, right? Who's gonna stop them? Anyway. So, okay, Elon Musk, very mixed character. I did an episode here with Amanda Maxim a month or two ago talking about some of Elon's tweets. Now, Amazon, this was probably not Jeff Bezos personally tweeting, but Amazon tweeted back at Elizabeth Warren, challenging some of her statistics. And again, it was not perfectly egoistic. It was not what it ought to be, which is keep your hand out of our pockets. But it was basically making the point that your numbers are bunk. We actually do pay a ton of taxes. And Elizabeth Warren said something like, well, when I'm in charge, or like when I'm in charge, we're going to stop you from like talking back or mouthing off at at congresswomen or just something very, very threatening like that. And Amazon tweeted, "Pay attention, everyone. Here's a sitting politician saying they're going to use the law in response to criticism on Twitter." Something like that. I'm obviously paraphrasing loosely from memory, and I'm pretty sure this was in the year 2021. If not, it was the tail end of 2020. It's all basically been a blur ever since this pandemic began. It's like one long, endless year, it seems. But, so there's Jeff Bezos part one. We'll get to more Jeff Bezos in a little bit. But, Amazon tweeting back at Elizabeth Warren. I mean, that's a huge move that you don't see that very often, do you?
You don't. I don't think it's going to start a revolution anytime soon because Bezos is one of the converted. But I do want to say, even though this is self-evident, Elizabeth Warren is one of the worst human beings on the planet. I'd say top 5 worst human beings on the planet, top 30 worst human beings in history.
And what makes you say that?
She is a dyed-in-the-wool fascist, a utter and complete power luster and control freak. And she doesn't hide it. So she's pathological enough not to understand that what she wants is despicable and evil. But that's a digression. We're really talking about Bezos.
It's a fascinating issue. Like these politicians obviously represent the people that vote for them. So is she that? I mean, yes, she is a power luster. I really couldn't just challenge that. So it's just an interesting question for me, like how to rank these people. But she truly is.
I would disagree with Mark for the following reason. I know 100 people at least who feel exactly the same things, who would say exactly the same things. They're just not in the position. So I would say she's a child of her time. And as you said, she's more open than others. But here's the problem with Jeff Bezos. Does he actually disagree with her when it comes to the core, or is he just, okay, please leave us alone? Because you don't even need to do much research. Out there, Jeff Bezos is heavily contributing to causes that support in the core the ideas of Elizabeth Warren. So Bezos is in a way, either he's paying ransom. So he's saying, look, I understand that I'm under Damocles' sword, so I don't want this sword to fall on my neck. Or he says, okay, basically I agree with you. Yeah, so I'm going to fund, and again, with a lot of money, not merely millions, like many millions. He's funding progressive causes, which means that in essence, so whichever of the two he is, either he's afraid or he agrees, the result is the same. And I don't know which is worse. Probably if he agrees, it's actually worse. So he's definitely not there as Elon Musk.
And Nikos, do you have any idea if he funds conservative causes as well?
I would be, if he did, we'd all know about it. If he did, it would be all over the place. Oh, he's buying elections, he's skewing democracy. Because if you're Fox News or the Murdoch press in the UK, that's the equivalent in these people's minds, you're destroying democracy. But if you spend 100 million or whatever to the Obama's NGOs or whatever, then you're for a more just society. But since we're using lines from Atlas Shrugged, can I use the line from John Galt and say, and now we're going to put an end to this once and for all, and discuss the three top anti-billionaire myths that we saw them time and again this year, so people note why these are all wrong. So myth number 1, they didn't start from zero, or slight remake of this myth, the state at some point helped them. So they will bring up things like, well, when Bezos started, his family gave him such an amount of money, or Bezos and Musk went to universities and they were from middle-class families. Now, notice here the envy. It's as if this takes away this idea that they're self-made billionaires. So the simple way to put it is, first of all, whenever you say something like that, in my mind, these people are projecting. These people are people like Bezos are putting a mirror on them, which says, look what you could have done, because you also did not start with nothing. If you're on Twitter with a higher education degree, odds are you had also something like a boost in the beginning. But for them, it's oh, they started from nothing, therefore they shouldn't, they didn't build it alone. Now, think about it this way. How many people in the United States start, let's say, from a comfortable middle-class background? But how many of them become a Bezos or a Musk? The percentage is probably something like 1 in hundreds of thousands. So this argument is stupid. The fact that they started from a middle-class family, A, doesn't make sense practically, and of course doesn't make sense morally. And also, are we to assume that if someone gave, let's say, $100,000 to that university lecturer who tweets, "Oh, you didn't start from zero," are we to expect that this university lecturer would take a car around the moon, or they will build Amazon and they would literally change history? The answer is probably not.
Yeah, and what do they say to that when you say, hey, if I gave you $300,000, do you think you can, magnify your fortune to the trillions? Do you think you could build a multi-trillion-dollar financial empire? You think you could be that productive? I don't think they understand. The people who say this don't understand where wealth comes from, how wealth is created and maintained. They just think it appears magically.
And these usually are the people who complain about not having a work-life balance. So I assume that even if someone took them tomorrow and put them, okay, you're CEO of Amazon, well, I don't think they would. Yeah.
The way egalitarians play, like, even if you can demonstrate, like, no, this guy came up from nothing and worked hard and earned every penny, then they could say, well, okay, well, he was born with certain talents, and even within his context, he was born in a freer country, and whatever, like that. They'll reduce it down to genetics if they have to. So even people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, I've heard, they engage in this nonsense where, like, well, nobody can really take credit for anything. And this pseudoscientific, I think, premise, it actually is the weapon that the left and all the anti-capitalists end up using, and it works. So I mean, like, what would I not give for one just hard ass, really super big time, industrialist powerhouse, someone in a position of Bezos or Elon Musk, who just completely gets it all the way down, like just completely understands the philosophy we're trying to promote here on the channel, objectivism. Because, like, look at people like the Koch brothers, I think billionaires, and from what I've heard, very, very virtuous businessmen, and they funded many objectivist projects, but they also fund, the conservatives of the world. And maybe in their mind, they've been like, hey, look, anyone who's not on the left or anyone who's basically pro free market is good to support. But what if they really, really, really got it? I've heard they're on the secular side. They've got like nude art in their headquarters, stuff like that. They're not evangelicals, but maybe they've funded various Charlie Kirk type of conservatives. And what has that led to? It's led, I mean, although they probably never meant to do this, they ended up fusing some of the blood into the beast that became the new right, Donald Trump and company. So that's kind of how I look at it. Imagine if we had some industrial powerhouses who really, really got it and only were willing to fund causes that really, really are on board with capitalism.
Since you mentioned,
sorry.
Go on, Mark.
Go ahead, Nikos.
What I would say is kudos to Trump for Trump's planning to Candace Owens why the vaccines are good. I mean, that was a good moment for him.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that, Rucka and Mark.
I did, but Mark, did you have something just now about?
I wanted to see what these three myths were. We got the first one out of the way, which is they didn't come from nothing. And we know that, entrepreneurs in the days when America was poor actually did come from nothing, but we're in a much wealthier place now. So most people can't claim that merit badge, but we know that you can't turn even $1 million into a multi-trillion-dollar universe without having a great deal of intelligence and skill. What are the other myths?
So the second thing that we keep hearing time and again, particularly when it has to do with their space travel, is we haven't solved all the problems on Earth. There's still hunger. So why do you do these extravagant things? And I've got two answers for them. The one actually comes from Ayn Rand. I saw it in her article, Apollo and Dionysius. Apparently, miserable people were making the same comments where Apollo went to space for the first time. And the things he says is, if we follow the same reason, the same values that made possible space travel, reason, letting people free to work and all that stuff, then A, we would solve all the other problems. But B, these people don't actually care about these other problems, because if they did, they would have figured it out that actually I don't have to put chains in Elon Musk if I want to save the problems of there. But I thought of a second counter argument to them, which is, notice how quite often these people would never apply this morality to their life because this morality is inapplicable. So you have, for example, people who spend half of their income, wealth, or even more than that, even they go to debt to get married, for example, to have a fantastic marriage. And these people are blaming Bezos and Musk for spending a small amount of their income for their space travel. Now, what they would say is, yes, but these amount to a lot of money, and with a lot of money, you would spend a lot of problems. Yes, but if your morality is right, then you should try to do the same. You should try to give up more and more and more. And this is where we see that their morality is inapplicable, because if you try to live this way, you will not have a marriage, you will actually have almost nothing, and you will be eternally sad, and your life is going to be a constant struggle to sacrifice. Turns out Elon Musk has also kind of bought to that. So he's trying to explain people, look, with 5 billion, you cannot solve all the problems of the world. And if you'd manage to do that, let me know, and I'll give you 5 billion to fight hunger. So again, he's halfway there in figuring this out. But the problem is the whole premise of why do you spend money in that, whereas we haven't solved that else, is a no-win. It's going to lead to a vicious circle.
And the premise is based on a similar premise to the skeptics who say, well, since we can't know everything, we can't know anything, right? This idea of a utopian perfectionism as a standard of anything is dead in the water. And I would even go further to say, as long as human beings have free will, none of these problems are really going to be eliminated ever. Because somebody will always choose the wrong course. Somebody in power will always do the wrong thing. Now, we stack the deck in our favor when we have a rational society that respects reason and has virtues that are connected to proper living and the good life and happiness. But we certainly won't eliminate errors, mistakes, bad people who do bad things deliberately. So as long as we have free will, there's going to be issues. There's going to be stains on that cloth.
Yeah. Let's talk about the space exploration or the space trips that Jeff Bezos and some of his friends went on. A lot of people, even people that don't think Billionaire should exist, couldn't help but admire and celebrate something so cool. It was like a bunch of kids basically getting to run into the toy store and play with whatever they wanted to. That's the adult version of that, is saying, I'm going to go to space. So having that kind of wealth and that kind of focus and, coherence, the ability to bring that vision into life is pretty amazing. I mean, space travel should be commercialized. It should have been commercialized, I think, the first time around, unless there was a real case to be made that the government needed to get that done to beat the Soviets. But I have my suspicions that beating the Soviets required much less work than NASA put into that. But that's a whole nother episode. What do you guys think of the space trips that Jeff Bezos and his boys took this year?
I think it tells a lot about who you are, how you react to them. Mm-hmm. If you react with jealousy and misery, you're the kind of person that even if someone close to you does something beautiful, you will find something to complain about. Life is never going to be really good and cheerful for you if this is your attitude towards achievement. Mark.
Yeah, I think it's aspirational. It's the beginning of a new frontier and tapping into a new frontier on so many different levels. And we're seeing the beginning of the Star Trek generation for real. And do I want to be on that starship going to space? Yeah, gives me something to aspire to. And to see other people experiencing that doesn't exclude me from it. It means the world is opening up to that space where the rest of us can enjoy the very same things. It's like There were 40 years ago, computers were too expensive for people to buy, and cell phones were only for the rich, like microwaves and central air and heating. And now these are things that we take for granted precisely because people came before. The rich afforded that technology, enabled that technology to be produced, and figured out ways to mass produce it so that we could have access to it. I can't wait till space is mass produced. I'm going.
Mm-hmm. If you watch like the reality show with Ozzy Osbourne back in the early 2000s, he had like a proto iPad. It was like a big like screen he could press like a remote on his TV, and it probably costed 50 grand or something. And of course, that technology, once first available to the very rich, now available to everyone. And I'll say, if you offered me either a trip to space or a lifetime of this, an iPhone and iPads and accelerating development of technology, I'll take the day-to-day stuff any day. So in a way, the sort of what we're seeing going to space is just a microcosm of what these billionaires and industrialists have done for us and continue to do for us every day. They put all that effort into creating little mini space launches that fit in our pockets.
That's right. For the Robert Reiches of the world who try to divide us according to class and make claims that trickle-down economics don't work. Hey, I tell you what, I would rather live with the wealth I have in the present day than have all of Rockefeller's money in his time. All right. That was a very uncomfortable existence, even only 100 years ago. It was an extremely uncomfortable existence, no matter what money you had. I have more at my beck and call now than Rockefeller ever did. I consider that pretty damn amazing.
Yeah.
There's the scene in The Fountainhead where Gail Wyman is working too hard and he hasn't got time to eat, which means go to a restaurant because that's what it was meant to eat. So Dominic, at the time when he's his wife and she shares his fight, what he does is he takes out a closet from the business and she puts something like a stove there and she can make sandwiches. And Ayn Rand presents that's ingenuity. So even if you were a billionaire, like this, getting food this way was considered something which is at then it was like, oh, that's clever. Today you just press buttons and all sorts of food from New York or God knows from where would be in 5 minutes at your desk.
Not only that, I have an app. I have apps I can exercise with that cost $5 a year. Apps that give me access to Ayn Rand University, access to all of the objectivist thinking that there is out there, access to the great courses. I have access to so much stuff for so little now, and people don't understand that that's wealth. That's wealth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely is. I wouldn't want to even live 20 years ago or even really 10 years ago. I mean, the technology that these mega producers have made available to us just, to me, makes life so great that I can't imagine going back. Okay, let's read some super chats in the regular chat room first. So Ann says that the Koch brothers didn't back Trump until he became the nominee. Well, the point I was making is just by them funding conservative moves in general, even when the conservatives were relatively pro-capitalism, even just that gave birth to the beast that became. So my thing is, imagine if people with that many resources really, really, really got it. And Tom in the chat says Peter Thiel is there. Elon Musk is nearly there. If you mean Peter Thiel is like an objectivist, is he the guy who recently spoke at the National Conservatism Conference? If that's what you're saying, I would say I disagree. Robert, now the super chat time. Now these are the real comments, guys. This is what matters to me. Robert with $2 says if $500 billion people give $2, we're there. That's right, everybody. Please. All I'm asking is $2. How about this? We got 3,000 subscribers. How about each one of you just gives us $1 a day? Huh? We can use your support. Roland with 499 euros says, have you factored in the UK tax rates, Robert? Plus, less irritatingly, the cut YouTube takes. All right. Well, we'll see if Robert answered him coming up in the super chat reading. Jonathan Honig with 299. Nice to see you. Marilyn with $20 American says, happy belated birthday, Rozzy. Lord Emperor. I didn't know he had a birthday. I thought he's like the Pharaoh in Egypt. There's no, no one's allowed to see him enter the restroom. All right.
Let's sour him with money today for the remaining of the If we shower him with money, he will, he'll deliver even better stuff, even better content. So all this stuff you see, all these programs, it's mainly one guy. There are 4 people in the team, and actually, no, there are more people helping the team, but most of the stuff is done by one guy who had his birthday yesterday and who deserves a lot of support. So keep showering him with money.
Roland with 499 euros says Elon is definitely my non-objectivist man of the year. Roland again with 199 euros says, and my objectivist of the year is Leonard Peikoff. Well, that's nice. See, that's what a legend he is. He just needs to show up one day of the year on the internet, and he beats us all out here, working and sweating
Twice,
all year
actually.
long.
He gave also the operetta talk. But
okay, yeah, that was on live streamed. That's you're right.
And 50% of his appearances happened in ARCUK. And if we take the last 2 years, I don't know how 2 out of 3 is. I'm not good in math, but 67% approximately of his appearance in our channel. If this is not homage to the work of the birthday boy, then I don't know what it is.
Allison Beard with $2 says, bite back at the barking politicians with an apostrophe. The barking politicians what? Thank you. I'm kidding. Marilyn with $4. Thank you for that. And wow, that's all the super chats we get. Wow. So that's it for Razi's birthday.
Wow.
You guys make
me
sick.
mention the third myth, and maybe people have time for.
Hold on. There's one more super chat. Marilyn with $2 says, life wouldn't mean much without volition. All right.
And our life wouldn't mean much without Razi. So the third thing that keeps coming again and again and again, they will find one thing which is either actually immoral or potentially immoral, or something which is maybe not immoral, but not a situation we try to find ourselves in. And this supposedly sheds a dark light to the whole life and work of these people. Example, how many times we've heard, well, with Apple, yeah, Apple is great, but did you know that part of their battery comes from a producer who uses slave labor in this particular country in Africa? Now, if this happens, this is despicable, and Apple shouldn't do that. Although, first of all, this is the responsibility of that government, and of course, no one should do business with them. Or the lighter version is Amazon factories are not a nice place to work in. And again, the point is, so are you telling me that because they get a minuscule part in the production line from dubious or outright immoral, let's assume all these claims are right, do you assume that this is the secret of their success? Like, would this mean that the governments of these countries or businesses in these countries that use slave labor, which again, we should boycott them, no one should do business with it, then they should be the richest businesses in the world? The richest business in the world would be businesses run by warlords. Of course, this is not the case. So again, these people don't understand.
Can I just add a little paradox in there? These very same people who make that claim about that country in Africa, which I think has a monopoly on those rare earth metals that go into batteries, will also endorse the use of batteries in solar panels and in other high capture batteries that use the very same technology and exploit the very same labor. So on the one hand, they'll hate Apple because it's a private company, but on the other hand, they'll endorse the Green New Deal, which would rely heavily on that kind of labor to acquire the materials for that scheme to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's become very kind of commonplace for people to just affiliate, Apple and Nike and big companies with slave labor in China. Now, there may be something that is eerily similar to slave labor in China, but for the most part, we are talking about early stages of capitalism, people getting off the farm and into a factory to pursue a better life, fully by choice, and it's the best option available to them. But it's become very commonplace to just kind of conflate Apple with slavery, and that definitely does not help sort all this to kind of clean up this mess that's in the premises of the culture that we live in.
Yeah, getting out of poverty is dirty. I'm sorry, Nikos, I interrupted you. What was the rest?
No, that was my point. So again, their argument doesn't make sense morally or practically. Or morally, it would make sense if their overall attitude was not one of envy. And what is, again, envy? Envy is, it's not that I get jealous in terms of I want what you have. So, for example, someone with a crazy work ethic, Michael Jordan, for example, could say, I see the Detroit Pistons and I want what they have. I want to destroy them by becoming better. This is something you could say there's even something virtuous there. I want to do better. I want to play in a playing field and beat them in that playing field. This is envy. I want to find something to take away from this person's glory. And of course, I would never be able to do what they do. This would be the equivalent of starting spreading rumors, if you're Michael Jordan, that Detroit Pistons are, I don't know, use steroids or enhancing drugs or whatever. So I don't want even to go to the field. And again, people, if it's so easy, and if Uber was just an idea and they happen to come first with this idea, here is fields for glory for you. Go to business and become richer and have better practices, have co-ops, have whatever you want. If it's so easy, why don't you go there and do it? And we will see you. And if your products are good, we are going to use your products, even if we disagree with your politics, as we do, for example, with Twitter and all that stuff.
All right. We got a few more super chats. Tazy with 449 euros or pounds rather says, how might lockdown affect wealth accumulation in the future, or will it? Yeah, I imagine the lockdowns have a lot of unforeseen or unseen and some seen economic effects that are going to be very, very detrimental. But the good news is freeing the economy now would do more than counter that. But sadly, I don't expect to see that. But also some industries have thrived in response to the lockdown, such as Amazon, such as Zoom, and welcome to the world. So
again, what should Amazon do? Because they happen to do well what they do, should they say, oh, you know what, we're going to give our money away? So because the government have put everyone on lockdown, in these people's minds, in the people who complain, it's somehow the problem that Amazon has benefited more. So I'm very curious to sit them down and discuss with them, how exactly does your mind work? How do you connect the threads that the lockdowns, the problem is with capitalism? And what's the name of the guy, the wolf guy who debated Yaron Brook? Remember where he said that the lockdowns, he blamed capitalism, and Yaron couldn't help it, and he started laughing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look,
these are the three myths that I had gathered. So
poverty is the default state, and the pandemic is the default state, right? So this is what businessmen do. They address problems in reality, they solve them, and it benefits us. There's no shame in that. Marilyn with $10 says, go Rozzy. Allison with $2 says, don't make fun of my grammar, lol. Taylor with $149, thank you. Enric with $9.99 says, an example of sanctioning your destroyer, Jack Dorsey tweeted $10 million to Dr. Ibram Kendi and the Center for Anti-Racist Research at BU. Yeah, again, I wish some of the most virtuous businessmen were also philosophically, they got it philosophically, but we are not there yet. We are not there yet.
And this is a totally unrelated question, but you just sort of mentioned Kendi. Nikos, you're in the academic world. When is that son of a bitch going down?
So I don't know when Kendi is going down. What I know is that the major work of that person is going to be in the curriculum of the Road to Critical Race Theory. Isn't Kendi the author of the Guide to Anti-Race? Okay, now I have two different titles in my head. Anyway, we're going to deal with this in the Road to CRT in the Iron University next term. So if you want to know not only that you sense that these people are wrong, but why they are wrong, or in which few areas they are right, and they have something to contribute. If they do, make sure you check the Iron University. Make sure you check the website of the Objectivist Academic Center, and make sure you figure out how you can attend the module I'm teaching with Dr. Onkar Gate, the Road to Critical Race Theory. Now, we wished Raz a happy birthday, so now it's time to piss him off and tell him that there's going to be no clubhouse today because Rucka has something to do with, in a few days, maybe you should do a whole episode on this because many of us have questions. I'm not going to reveal what it is because maybe you don't want us to, but it's something.
Maybe I should read super chats. Christopher with $2.99 Canadian. Thank you. Marilyn with $2 says, what the F is an anti-racist research? Marilyn again with $2 says, notice the pound sign gets me around the algorithm. Interesting. Bradley with €10 says, is that what Nico said about Mike Jordan the ultimate difference in the two types of power. You can earn power like Jobs or Bezos, or you can steal it. How is ambition different from power lust? One is ambition and the other is power lust. We really need to wrap this up, Nikos. Jesus Christ, please please resist the temptation. But if you want to answer quickly, go ahead.
No. It's okay. I wouldn't call it power, but no major disagreement here.
Okay, coming up at 9 p.m. UK time, it's HBTV, and the episode is Reason in History. Now, that's powerful stuff. Talking about philosophy and history and how those two, or reason in history. Anyway, that's all the preview I'll give. Then at 10 p.m. UK time, it's Method and Madness with the boys. And the episode today is Dinesh D'Souza's Argument for God. And the guest objectivist philosopher is Ankar Gate. And he'll be talking to Larry and Ibis. So that's going to be cool. You know, just a couple weeks ago, we had the two Israelis, Yoran versus Yoram, debating. And Ankar has described his background as Indian and German. Not that it matters, but like for, in passing mention that. So I guess if you want to look at it this way, it's like Dinesh and Ankar in a way are repeating that very poetic match down. But obviously, who your ancestors are means nothing about your own personal chosen values and your philosophy. So anyway, that's coming up. Thank you all for joining us today. This is the busiest day of my life. Personally, I'm working on something. I'll just say it's a controversial word. It starts with N. It ends with FT. And I'll explain later. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Nikos. And no Clubhouse today. See you back here tomorrow, where I will be discussing the new Matrix movie with a guy named Don Watkins. Goodbye.
Au revoir.